Housing. You know I love looking at housing stuff. This is not the first time, okay? We've looked at UK houses, Australia houses. Now we're looking at New Zealand. Beautiful New Zealand houses. Differences versus the USA. I will give my 2 cents when appropriate. And pretty soon, look for that video where I'm just going to be browsing houses all across the world for sale. I think it'd be really fun. And yeah, look for that really soon. All right. So yeah, this is housing differences, New Zealand versus USA. And this is from the channel called Kiwi Americans. All right. I'm not sure if I've seen them before or not. I think I have. But this will be linked in the description down below so you can watch the whole thing uninterrupted, as I'll be probably skipping around a little bit and browse their channel. All righty. Here we go. Let's do it.
Housing in New Zealand is expensive.
That's what I've heard.
The good news is that the prices are definitely going down. In fact, I have been renting my entire time here in New Zealand, but now I'm looking for housing. So I am recording all of that information, and I will do a video on what it's like buying a house here, because let me tell you, it's different.
It's different. Okay, we'll see what she says. Good luck. I hope she is able to purchase a home if that's her goal down there. I think that'd be awesome, right? I imagine by the channel name, I think they are from America. I can assume that, and they are now living in New Zealand. I admire that, but let's learn more, shall we?
I get agents all the time. I have no idea what these words are, what this means. So I will be doing a video to help you with this once I've gone through the entire process and let you know. So it is expensive. Prices have gone up really a lot in New Zealand. Actually, let me get my notes because I wrote down the average price for a house in New Zealand right now is $991,000, which is just under $1 million. But that's in New Zealand dollars. So in US dollars, it's like $550,000.
Oh, you know what? That's not terrible. That's not terrible. I thought that was 991,000 US dollars. That would be pretty steep. 551,000. You know what? A few years ago, that seemed like crazy high, right? I think housing across the world, especially here in the US too, has gone up dramatically in the last like 4 or 5 years, to the point where I said, you know, 500 grand, $500,000 US dollars would have been just like ludicrous for a home. Like, what? Like, damn, you must be rich. But now that's like almost normal. It's weird, right? I think the average price technically, which average is kind of weird in the U.S. Like, it's such a big country with so much variation, right? But I think the average price here of homes is maybe like 350 grand. We can look that up. All right, so average price of a U.S. home. No. So 428,000, a little more than I thought, right? 2020, 329,000. You see that year over year? That's or a couple years. That's crazy. So yeah, it's expensive here too. So yeah, New Zealand, for as epic and beautiful as it looks, I don't think that median price isn't terrible, but that's for today's standards. I do think it's a lot, and even the median price here in the U.S., I think that's a lot. I miss when a nice home was like 180 grand, right? Like, what happened to that?
In the U.S., though, the average price is $348,000. That's total in the U.S.
Said it.
So obviously, there's cheaper parts and more expensive parts. But in New Zealand dollars, that's $618,000. So there is quite a discrepancy in terms of, you know, how expensive a house is. But just like in the U.S. or New Zealand, you can buy a cheaper property. You can buy more expensive properties.
Right.
But in general, that's going to be your biggest expense here in New Zealand. But what I've talked to a lot of my clients about is that there are some interesting ways of which you can reduce your housing costs. And so there are ways, because it is a different culture here, like having a border is very normal. A lot of the houses have outbuildings where you could rent out, and then that helps on the cost of your mortgage every month. And so
that was very prevalent in the Southwest, like New Mexico, Arizona. They have casitas, they're called, right? Which means little house in Spanish. And yeah, those are cool. Having like we saw a lot of cool houses around us down there, where it was, you know, like a nice, decent sized house, and then a, you know, decent sized property, and then you'd have a little house, casita, in the back. You could rent out or let the you know, in-laws stay wherever, right? Pretty cool concept, I think.
There are definitely some options that make it cheaper, which I have done myself. I have Airbnb'd a room, or I've had a boarder stay with me. I've had a lot of things, and it helps really reduce the price, and you can still have a bigger house, nicer house, but keep your costs down. So there's lots of options, but the number one thing, I just wanted to get that out there. The difference is it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
to buy a
upfront
house
cost
here in New Zealand. The second thing I want to talk about is the heating. Now, I know I've said this in so many videos, but we just have to put out like the big ones. So the biggest difference, I think, for an American coming and buying a house or renting a house in New Zealand is the heating.
All right.
So the way that they heat their house here, heat pumps, gas heating, fireplace, wood burning,
all right.
Electric heat, so it's very different. Now the US is a big place, so how houses are heated is different across the country.
Yeah,
I'm from
it
the
is.
Midwest, so we are in like below zero weather
Oh, she's from the Midwest. Me too. What do you know?
in the winter, and so we all have furnaces. Like
Right.
there's no way you could ever get away with. I mean, I guess I did have a house in the US that had in the Midwest that had electric heat, but it
Okay.
was not good. It was very
Right.
expensive. But
Yeah, furnace, that's the norm here. Definitely agree with that.
so in general, you're going to notice that people are more comfortable living cold in the winter, like compared to what
Wow,
you're used to
okay.
in like the US or Canada.
Yeah.
But yeah, so be aware of the heating system. So when you're coming here and you're looking for a house, you're renting a house, you're buying a house, pay attention to the heating. Look for central heat. Now, New Zealand is improving immensely. They're putting in
So, you know what? Bring a hoodie, bring a jacket, and you could be wearing it in the house right now. As I'm literally wearing a hoodie in the house. Hopefully, they're not comfortable with being too cold, because, man, I hate the cold. I hate the cold. Some people hate the heat. My wife kind of hates, like, extreme heat. You know what? I hate extreme cold. I'll take the heat any day, you know?
rules for landlords in terms of insulation levels and some other requirements in terms of heating. So it's much better. All the newer homes are much better.
Cool.
But, you know, it's going to take a while to get there because there's still a lot of houses
Yeah,
that
understandable.
heating is, you know, in my opinion, no thank you. You know, especially with more people like working from home or being
Yeah,
home a lot more often,
right.
like that's really going to matter because it's just, you don't want to be cold.
No, you don't want to be
Like, when
bundled
you're
up in your own
typing and,
house
like, having- I used to
24/7,
have
right?
like gloves on that had my fingers coming out to type because it was so cold.
Damn.
So yeah, and then I mean, there's ways around it. You can have personal heat. They have those hot water things, like rubber things that they put on your lap or in your bed. And so they have all the things. Or we could just heat our houses.
Yeah.
you know,
Hopefully,
where it's
I'm gonna
warm.
go with heat in the house. Not you know, I mean, it's up to you guys. I don't know. Hopefully, the pad. Yeah, that's a little underwhelming, right? Let's go with heating the whole house. Call it quits there, right?
So yeah, they're getting here in New Zealand, but I just wanted to point out heating is a big difference. In addition to the heating, another difference is air conditioning.
Okay, how's
Like,
that?
I've never seen an air
Central air. I'm sure maybe you've heard that. Central air is the most common, right? That is like everywhere in the U.S. Otherwise, if you're really old homes or small homes, you might have window units. You know, epic fail right here. Our house here in Illinois it is old, and so we have window units. We don't have central air. And but of course our house in Las Cruces did. It had a furnace, even though it did not get real cold there. It did have a furnace for heat, and then, of course we had central air for air conditioning, which you definitely needed. You know, 100 degrees for like 4 months in a row. Yeah.
air conditioner here. In the U.S., you know, we have it really cold in the winter in the Midwest and really hot in the
Yeah,
summer. And so
good
everybody
point.
has an air conditioner, or at least a window air conditioner in a room.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that there's parts of New Zealand that would have air conditioning. So maybe comment below if you do. Because I actually
I
don't
would
know
assume.
this. But it's not a common thing because it's
Oh, it's not even common. Okay, see, that is bizarre. Now, I'm a weather like nerd secretly. I think I've displayed it on my channel. I've done weather videos before. But you know what? I need to pay more attention to New Zealand for weather. I'm quite well versed at this point on Australian weather, the different variations in the different areas that, you know, get certain types of weather. But of course, you know, as a whole, Australia is generally a pretty warm continent. I think that's safe to say. Now, New Zealand isn't too far away, right? It's far. If you really look at it, they're closer together than Australia and the U.S., like, duh, right? I mean, they're still in the same realm. They're still in Oceania, right? And New Zealand, I've always understood to be more mild, right? It's very mountainous, and it's a little more south and way out there. So I imagine it's more wild. I don't think you guys get crazy hot days, you know, for like 50 days in a row or anything like that, like you may get in certain parts of Australia. So, but I would think, at least on like the North Island in New Zealand, I would think you'd get some hot days where you need air, but maybe not. I don't know.
not it's not a tropical climate, so it's not that hot.
Okay.
Like in the Wellington region, you're not going to get hotter than say 75, 78 Fahrenheit.
Wow, even in
Here,
summer.
during the summer, like you're not getting
Wow.
like 88,
That is
90, 100 degrees Fahrenheit in New Zealand. And so
that is more mild than I thought. Because obviously, like I said, when I lived in the desert, super hot, that's a given. Here in Chicago, I've been here my whole life, and dude, Chicago gets really hot for like 3 or 4 months a year. It gets really hot. We just started cooling down right now, like in the last few days. Up until a few days ago, we still had like some upper 80s Fahrenheit days. So and in the summer, we had quite a few days that were 94, 95 degrees Fahrenheit and humid. It was like scorching hot, like miserable. So yeah, that is shocking to hear that like Chicago for me would be, I guess you could say, hotter than most or all of New Zealand. Wow.
So there's no need for the air conditioning. So I just want to point out that's another difference.
Interesting.
Air conditioning. Another difference is screens in windows. In New Zealand, They don't have all of the bugs. So there's no screens in the windows. So that was like one thing I really noticed.
Did I hear that right? New Zealand has barely any bugs? Sign me up. Let's go. I'm going to get my wife and kids. We're going. I hate bugs. It's been a horrible year for bugs. One of the worst, I feel like, my whole life since we moved back to Illinois. The bugs, the spiders, the flies, the mosquitoes, everything. Everything's been really bad this year. And that's just, that's part of life, right? I'm just, saying, now that I think about it, they've been really bad. And to hear a country that generally does not have a lot of bugs, wow, that's awesome. You definitely need a screen here. If you don't have a screen, you're going to have a whole, bug kingdom in your house in the Midwest.
Like a screened-in porch. I think I've seen that a little bit. But, they don't have, all the bugs. They have bugs, but it's not the same level. It's
Ooh,
not
he's an interesting-looking guy.
So just imagine living without the screens. Like, people say, oh, there's annoying, sandflies and different bugs here in New Zealand. It doesn't compare to where I'm from in terms of mosquitoes and just all of the flies and just everything. No need for screens in New Zealand, so it's really nice.
You know what?
Open your window and it's just actually,
bravo.
No screen and having to deal with that. So that's a big.
That is a huge selling point. Hey, someone wants to move to New Zealand, very little bugs. There you go. That, I think that moves it way high on the list for someone that wants to move abroad. There you go.
Big difference for me. Another
That's
big
awesome.
difference between housing in New Zealand compared to the U.S. What I've noticed is the roofing material.
Ooh, okay.
So in the Midwest,
what do y'all use?
In the U.S., and I think it's different, in California.
Yeah.
Is asphalt shingles as well.
Yeah, asphalt shingles everywhere you look. Cookie cutter design. The Midwest doesn't have a lot of variation. It's one of the things I don't really like. It is what it is. And then, of course, I don't know for all regions. I know most of the houses in the Southwest, for example, where we just came from, they did not use shingle roofs, right? They had flat roofs, Adobe style, Santa Fe style. It's in New Mexico. So, yeah, totally flat roofs, all stucco. Adobe style, and they would paint the roofs white, of course, too, because it's very hot. That reflects the heat and keeps the house relatively cool. You wouldn't want a black roof down there. Way too sunny and hot. So, yeah, there's different styles, but, yeah, asphalt shingles, that is, everywhere here in Illinois or most of the Midwest.
Generally people use, and they last 30 years or whatever. But here, if I look,
Yeah.
I'm up on a hill. If I look out my window, I'm going to see tile.
It's a beautiful
I'm going to see
view.
a lot of the roof tiles, clay, sheet metal.
Wow. More variation.
That's more sustainable for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And it looks really nice. You are going to see asphalt shingles here in New Zealand. Not
a
sure
little
if
bit.
That's what you call them here, actually. But they do have.
Yeah. Do you guys call them shingles down there? But it's cool to see some variation, and I'm sure some of those other methods last longer as well.
But I'm just saying, I see them not very common. I don't know. I'm just looking down and I'm seeing a lot of flat roofs and metal roofs.
Yeah.
And clay tiles. And so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Just noticing that the roofing material is quite different. Another big difference between the housing in US compared to New Zealand is that every house in a neighborhood is a different style.
That's
Like you'll
cool.
find in
I
the
like that.
US that they just decide to design a whole development and
Yeah.
all the houses look the same.
Yep.
And they all maybe have a couple different colors,
Yeah.
or some of them have an extra bathroom, but essentially when you're driving
Yeah.
around that neighborhood, it's cookie cutter, like they're all the same. And
That's what I was saying. It's cookie cutter here. Most places in the U.S. are like that. And
one of the things I hate about the US, and it's not everywhere, but there's a lot of big developments. Everybody has the same exact house.
Yeah.
Or that, with some
That's common.
small variations. And here, that's not the case. Like in my neighborhood, you go walk by every single house, not one thing is the same.
that's kind of
Different
cool.
siding,
That's
different
refreshing.
roofing, different style, different size, different look to it. And so totally varies.
That's
so
awesome.
I can see why
I respect that.
Doing the cookie cutter makes sense for efficiency and getting a lot out very quickly.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the way in the U.S., right? Keep costs down. Slap these things together. They're not made to last that long either. I think we've been through that in various videos. If you can just slap them together, have a couple different color sidings or a little bit change in landscaping, whatever, right? Make them look different enough. But yeah, slap them up. Boom, done. Get our money and get out. That's how it is here. That's how it is, man. Like I say, the U.S. is like so corporate. It is corporate, mega corporate overload. That's what it is, man.
Seeing that more with the new home builds here in New Zealand, but it's everybody was like everything's like a custom design.
That's
Everything
cool.
is different. So
That's
you
cool.
do have things that are more cookie cutter, but it's not common. Like I can just look through the whole valley right now, and
Damn, she's a good view. She has a good view.
all right,
That's
let's
awesome.
talk about basements.
Yeah, do you guys have basements?
In the Midwest, basements are a big thing. Basements
Yeah.
are like if you're in a ranch style house, which is one-story
Yep.
house, and you have a basement.
You always have a
so you
basement in the
basically
Midwest.
Double the size of your house. So you have a basement underground that
I
is
quite like
just as
basements.
big as the top, and it's like people make rump rooms
Yeah.
and bars. Like
Yeah.
huge. It just adds a lot of square footage to your
Or they make Australian maritime man caves. But yeah, basements are super common here. But again, in the Southwest, no basements. No basements at all in New Mexico. How weird.
house. Now,
No tornadoes
I know that
either.
there's states like Texas, they don't have basements. There's all the different weather reasons why people do or do not
Right.
have basements, but it's not really a thing here in New Zealand.
Okay, it's not
There's
a
lot
thing.
of houses that you will enter on the ground floor, but then you go down and then like the bedrooms are underneath or like that, but it's not like talked
okay.
about like a basement or an extra room. And I've walked through a couple houses that have like extra rooms below, but like basements aren't a thing. Like it's like
Wow.
a whole industry in the US. Like,
Yeah, it is.
let me build you your entertainment basement
Yeah,
and
right.
your man cave and
Yeah.
whatever.
Me,
And so
yeah.
it's not quite the same here. Now, this one isn't totally related to housing, but kind of. What I really like about New Zealand, because we don't have the harsh winters like I'm used to,
Right.
you have blooms all year.
Oh,
Now,
that's
I'm
awesome.
sure parts of the U.S. that's the case as
Oh,
well.
definitely.
But like for me,
But
like,
not in
I'm
Chicago
a
here, no.
Let's be honest, but I do like to have some. And then the U.S. in the Midwest, it didn't always make a lot of sense because the summer would start, you would get all
Right.
your blooms out, and then they would all, just get buried under the snow, and you'd have to start all over
Ugh,
again
yeah.
in the spring, and it just was futile. I thought, like, this is a waste of time.
Yeah, it
But
gets
here,
pretty
like,
rough.
all year. You're popping up they're beautiful
Oh,
flowers and
that is awesome.
things in season, fruit trees everywhere, and it's just
Oh my God.
really nice.
That sounds awesome. Seriously, I hear that a lot about Australia and New Zealand as a whole. Just amazing weather. I mean, I know you guys tend to say sometimes it can get cold and stuff. I get it. It gets colder certain parts of the year. But I still think y'all spoiled. I don't think you really know what cold is. I'm talking like -20 cold. Y'all don't know what that is. Canada certainly does, and the northern part of the U.S. does. I'm just on the line here in Chicago where we do get really cold. Southern Illinois or like Kentucky or something right below us, they don't really get that cold. But unfortunately here in Northern Illinois, it gets really cold. And it's hard to grow a lot of exotic things, right? It just doesn't really happen. So, yeah, if you guys have blooms all year and can grow fruit trees and all these different things, that's how you know you're in a good climate, all right? You're a little bit spoiled with the climate, all right? That's a good measure of that. So that's good. That's good to hear about New Zealand.
and it's, to me, way more worth it. And so like gardening is a huge thing in New
Oh,
Zealand.
hell yeah.
People are very passionate about gardening. There's garden tours. I've gone on them. They're amazing what people are doing. And it's because it's something that they can develop all year. I used to live in a house where the garden was amazing, and he designed it in a way where like every month, every couple of weeks, all new blooms were coming up in season. So you always had something.
That's awesome.
It was just amazing. So I appreciate that about New Zealand. Another
That's
thing
awesome.
that you will see in New Zealand homes that aren't as common in the U.S. are clotheslines. Like almost
Yeah.
every house that I've moved into, that I've been to, have a clothesline, because most people hang their clothes
Yeah.
outside. And
That's honestly what I've heard for most countries other than the U.S. Isn't that funny? That's not common here. Even like down in Mexico, right below us, they do that. It's just not common. Some people do that in the U.S., but it's I'd say it's pretty rare. We personally don't, so guilty. We put our stuff in the dryer and then put it away, right? There's no clothesline. So yeah, it is kind of weird, right? I mean, it's weird to us, but I think we're weird to the rest of the world because we don't do that. We don't hang our clothes to dry.
not dryers aren't as big of a thing. People do have them, it's just not as common. Like it just isn't common. Like even when you go to Airbnbs, they give you, some pegs to hang your clothes out because that's where people dry their clothes.
That would never happen
and so
here. Yeah.
In the U.S., there's lots of like subdivisions that don't even allow you to have those because they don't like the look of people's clothes hanging outside.
I wasn't even aware of that.
That sort of thing. So, but then there's places that do have it. I'm just saying, way more common in New Zealand compared to the U.S. And the last big difference that I'm going to mention today is the appliances.
Ooh, let's hear about this.
Like the houses are just going to be smaller in general, and so are the appliances. People don't buy food in bulk. They don't have the need for these huge refrigerators. People kind of just buy week to week or day to day, and so just smaller refrigerators, smaller ovens, and it's all fine.
Yeah, I don't think most of that would bother me, right? If it was like a smaller, whatever, insert appliance, washer, dryer, smaller, microwave, smaller, oven, that wouldn't bother me. I gotta admit though, I'm a little spoiled by big time, big America stuff when it comes to refrigerators. I like having a big fridge. We have a big refrigerator and of course freezer, and that's all one thing. And then of course I have an extra freezer downstairs in the basement, and it's a pretty good size as well. So I like having big refrigerators. I don't know why. I think that's useful. But then again, I feel like that's kind of an American thing, right? Keeping that much stuff in the fridge. So yeah, I don't know. There you go. American exposed. That would take a little getting used to in a different country. If the fridges were, half the size or something, that'd be different.
We don't need, bigger isn't always better, right? This is what we're learning. And
no, it's not always better.
Everything's just scaled down a bit, very efficient. You will always have a electric kettle in a New Zealand home.
What are those, right?
Popular in the U.S., they do have them.
Yeah, we do have them, contrary to popular belief. They're just not common. And yes, anyone who's reasonable knows what it is.
In a kettle on the stove as opposed to an electric one in the U.S., but you always will have an electric kettle in a New Zealand home. So that's a distinguishing feature.
That is.
But yeah, so everything is just a little bit smaller, but still really nice. You can still get a really nice house here, and it's a different style and a different feel, but still really
I like the style from the little we've seen.
The video this week.
That's about it. So you know what? Go ahead and use that link in the description. Check them out, okay? Check this whole video out. Check their channel out, all right? That was nice. A lot of good points. And I will definitely, soon, when we look at houses, I'm just going to go on the internet, find different sites, and look at some houses around the world. I'm definitely going to include New Zealand, like no doubt about it. I think it's a beautiful place. I think Kiwis are awesome. And yeah, this was a really good one. I'm glad I watched it. So please make sure to smash that thumbs up. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. And of course, subscribe to join our amazing community we do have here. I really can't wait to hear what you have to say down in the comments. Anything she missed or you thought was inaccurate, go ahead and let me know. Yeah, I think these were subtle differences. Some of them may be predictable, I thought, and then some of them a little bit of a surprise. The lack of air conditioning, that's the big time kind of surprise. And the variation in the houses, I like to hear that. I think that's awesome. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. Alrighty. In closing, my name is Ian. You're watching IWrocker. Until next time, y'all. Catch you later.